Hello everyone, my name is Vedant and welcome to Markets Daily, a daily stock market insights and analysis podcast by Bajaj Broking. Our mission to bring our listeners, that's you, the daily financial news and advice that you will need before the markets open, so that you can make the best decisions when it comes to improving your finances. We have absolutely no idea what the future holds, but we can't wait to bring it to you every morning as the markets open. And along with this program, if you require any more information, please do visit www.bajajbroking.in. In India, benchmark indices snapped a two-session decline and closed higher on Tuesday's session amid more firm global cues. However, fear of higher interest rates in the US for a longer period of time kept gains in check ahead of the inflation data that will be released on Thursday in the US. The Nifty closed the session at 22,198 levels, a rise by 0.3%, while the Bank Nifty traded in a range and closed the session on a more flat note at 46,588 levels. On the daily timescale, what this looks like is that the index has formed a bull candle, which almost completely engulfed the previous session's bear candle, signaling buying demand at the lower levels on expected lines, which in turn is a signal for strength and continuation of up move after recently breaking above the last 5-week range. Going ahead though, volatility is likely to remain elevated on account of volatile global cues on the horizon and monthly F&O expiry on the Thursday session. We believe though that the Nifty is in a firm uptrend and dips, if any, should be utilized as a buying opportunity. But speaking of opportunity, let's switch our focus to the news for today in the financial world and hear about some of the movers and shakers. The flagship company of the Advents Group, Texmaco Rail and Engineering Limited, on Tuesday said that its board of directors has approved plans to raise up to 150 crore rupees through a preferential issue of convertible warrants to its promoters and promoter groups. The board has authorized its capital issue committee to finalize the structure, the terms and the conditions of the issuance, as well as any other related matters. And infrastructure firm Salazar Techno Engineering Limited also on Tuesday said it received an order worth rupees 200 crore from Zetwork Business for the supply of 25,000 metric tons of solar structures. This contract is expected to further strengthen the order book for the company and is expected to be completed within 12 months, yielding healthy EBITDA margins. Their management team was even quoted on this, saying, "We anticipate to complete the delivery of the specified quantity within the next 12 months, demonstrating our commitment to timely execution and delivery excellence." End quote. And ICICI Bank Limited also increased its stake in ICICI Lombard General Insurance Company on Tuesday through an open market transaction. ICICI Bank, the insurer's promoter, bought a 1.65% stake comprising about 80.9 lakh shares for 1,356 crore rupees on the stock exchange, according to a recent exchange filing. The promoter bank, as of December 2023, held a 47.91% stake in the company, but following the acquisition, that percentage has risen to approximately 49.5%. The bank has said it has received approval from the Reserve Bank of India and the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India for the deal. And in more environmentally friendly news, state-owned SJVN on Tuesday announced the commissioning of a 100 megawatt solar power project located at the Banaskantha district in Gujarat. The project, bagged at a tariff of 2.64 rupees per unit, has been commissioned through its subsidiary SJVN Green Energy Limited, as per a regulatory filing. The cost of construction and development on this project is expected to cost approximately 642 crore rupees, and the project is expected to generate roughly 252.3 million units in the first year alone. And lastly, if you'll remember, the board of Vodafone Idea had been planning to meet and discuss a potential fundraise of 20,000 crore rupees. We had covered this in a previous episode. Well, the board of directors did meet on Tuesday and approved a fundraise of up to 20,000 crore rupees via a combination of equity and or equity-linked instruments. The board has also authorized the management to appoint various intermediaries, including bankers and counsels, to execute the fundraise as per a recent filing. The equity and debt funding raising will enable the company to make investments towards significant expansion of their existing 4G coverage, initiate a 5G network rollout, and, of course, capacity expansion. These investments will enable the company to improve its competitive positioning and, according to a statement from the company, offer an even better customer experience, end quote. And with the news out of the way, it is time for the last bit of information that is specifically about the Indian benchmark indices, and that is the daily intraday levels. As this is the purely numbers portion of the podcast, do keep your pen and paper handy. For the Nifty, intraday resistance is situated at 22,270 levels, followed by 22,340 levels. Conversely, downside support is located at 22,130 levels, followed by 22,070 levels. For the Bank Nifty, intraday resistance is positioned at 46,830 levels, followed by 47,090, while downside support is found at 46,330 levels, followed by 46,100 levels. And lastly, for the Fin Nifty, intraday resistance is positioned at 20,640 levels, followed by 20,730, while downside support is found at 20,490 levels, followed by 20,400 levels. Okay, and with that, let us now shift our focus to what's happening in other parts of the world. US stocks closed near flat on Tuesday ahead of inflation and other economic data that could shed light on the possible timing of a future Federal Reserve interest rate cut. The Dow Jones Industrial Average on yesterday's session fell 97 points, or 0.25%, to stand at 38,972 points. The S&P 500 gained 9 points, or 0.17%, to close at 5,079 points, and the Nasdaq Composite rose 59 points, or 0.37%, to close at 16,035 points. A lot of this, of course, is in the time where corporate earnings season is winding down and investors have refocused on economic data and the likely path of US rates. Equities in the US have been on a furious rally for weeks, fueled largely by the enthusiasm about artificial intelligence-related stocks that lifted the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrials to record levels while leaving the Nasdaq just short of a new high over the last couple days. And the next key bit of data that economists and market experts are eagerly waiting for is the January Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index, which will be released on Thursday, US time. As mentioned before, this is the US Fed's preferred mode to check for inflation. And moving away from the west to the east, the Asia-Pacific stock markets opened flat on Wednesday as investors awaited key US inflation and other data out of China that will be shared later this week. Japan's Nikkei 225 as well as the broader topics opened a flat, and South Korea's Kospi rose 0.1%, while the smaller cap Kosdaq added 1.3%. And lastly, moving away from the equities for a second, oil prices rose after reports that producer group OPEC Plus was considering extending voluntary oil output cuts into the second quarter to provide additional support. US crude settled up 1.66% at $78.87 a barrel, while Brent finishing up at 1.36% at $83.65 a barrel. In currencies, the dollar was down slightly against the Japanese yen after data showed Japan's core consumer inflation exceeded their forecasts, and the greenback also reacted to January's bigger-than-expected decline in the US durable goods orders. The dollar index gained 0.04% at 103.81 basis points. The US Treasury's yields rose moderately in choppy trading as investors waited for Thursday's inflation data, as we have mentioned before, and the benchmark 10-year yield is currently placed at 4.3%. And gold prices held steady in the US as spot gold lost 0.04% to finish at a valuation of $2,029.82 an ounce. US gold futures gained 0.36% to finish at a valuation of $2,035.90 an ounce. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode, and we need to start knuckling down and getting ready for the market's opening later today. As always, I hope you all have gotten something meaningful out of today's program. And as mentioned before, for more information, please do visit www.bajajbroking.in. This podcast was made possible by the good people at Bajaj Broking, and we can't wait to bring more financial news and analysis to you when we return tomorrow morning. Cheers, everyone.
Investments in the securities market are subject to market risk. Read all related documents carefully before investing.